And welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is cleaning house. We carry around a lot of extra baggage, whether it be things or old beliefs, old patterns, old grudges. And so today we're going to talk about what it would look like to clear out the cobwebs and let go of stuff that, or release, or um, give away, whatever stuff that might be, might have outlived its usefulness. So should be an interesting conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present, right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Shosha. So good to have you here with us this morning. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. We're talking about cleaning house, cleaning out the cobwebs. So I'm in the process of moving. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you with us this morning. Uh, I'm in the process of moving. So actually, before the moving comes the packing. Before the packing comes the weeding through and the discarding. And it's made it very present for me to be looking at the things that I have accumulated over the years that no longer have their usefulness. And I think that this happens on a lot of different levels. It happens on a physical level with things, but it also happens on an emotional level, a level of beliefs, a level of grudges, for example, or old resentments, old hurts, old patterns. And there's a tremendous freedom available to us when we allow ourselves to pay attention, to notice what might have accumulated around us. You know, I don't know about you, but I'm something of a collector. I like to collect stuff, but this selectively curate, you know, not just stuff for stuff's sake, but really special things. And what I've found is that even those special things, even those things that we have wanted for a long time, and this, we can use this as a metaphor for ourselves as well, even stuff or situations, whatever, that we've wanted for ourselves for a long time, sometimes when we have those things, after we've had those things for a while, we don't have the need to have them anymore. In other words, things can outlive their preciousness. Things especially, but so can our beliefs and our behaviors and our patterns. We are dynamic beings, and we grow and we change, and our needs grow and change, our wants and desires grow and change. So in looking at our lives, look around you, just where you are, look around you, and see the things that maybe you love still, but maybe they've outlived their usefulness. Maybe they become a burden. And this is something that I find to be so true with a lot of our behaviors. A lot of our behaviors are developed in the context of circumstances that require a certain response. So growing up as kids, maybe we're in an environment that isn't the safest environment. Maybe we're in an environment where we're told children are seen and not heard, and there are consequences for being heard, for example. And then we grow into being adults. We've learned that we want to be seen, or maybe not even seen, but definitely not heard. And then we grow into adults where it's important to be expressing our desires, expressing our needs, expressing our opinions. People are hiring us for those opinions in certain instances, correct? And so that notion of being seen and not heard needs to transform, needs to transition into something else. We learn maybe to be the comedian so that we have greater safety, for example. And that's a way that we deflect attention, or a way that we diffuse situations. And then there are times when it's not so appropriate to be the comedian, and then we feel unseen. So shifting those behaviors, allowing ourselves to let go of old grudges, for example. The thing that I imagine that we all have people in our lives where we've experienced being wounded. And the person that we knew that person to be may not be the same. They say that people don't change, but there's a lot about us that does change. There's a lot about us that does grow. And particularly when we are actively engaged in that growth and evolutionary process. So to imagine somebody from years and years ago, and to hold the same view of that person, and sometimes that person is ourselves, to hold that same view of that person is something that's locked in time. It's not necessarily reflective of the present moment. And so in holding on to memories, this is actually a really interesting thing. We think that memory is a real thing. We think that what we remember is true. But the thing is that every time we remember something, we are remembering it. We are reassembling it. We are reconstructing it. And I was hearing a part, unfortunately, just part of an interview on NPR the other day, or an episode on NPR where they were talking about memory. And there was the person who was talking about memory was saying, our memory isn't truth. It's not accurate to what really happened. And the thing that I didn't hear them say, but that is very true, is that our memories are constructed from the place where we are when a certain event happened. So the initial memory is a function of the circumstance of the moment is a function of our consciousness at the moment. So, for instance, I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you've gone back to some place that you knew in childhood, and the scale of things is very, very different because you were a little kid when you experienced that experience, when you experienced that environment. And going back as an adult, literally the scale is very, very different. The subjective scale is very, very different. So it's important to recognize that a lot of our experiences and a lot of our beliefs and a lot of our patterns are shaped when we're children in response to particular environment, right? The way that we register certain instances is being registered from the context of a child who may not have who doesn't have, let's just be honest, doesn't have the broader experience and perspective to be able to contextualize something. So a child may experience something as very frightening that maybe isn't that frightening. The degree of the emotional response may be extreme. In other words, really, well, as a child, we have a very different context from which to interact with life than we do as adults. And so we carry those memories, even not even just as a child, but at different phases in our lives. The circumstances that we experience and the memories that we create are a function of who we are in that moment, what is going on in our lives in that moment. And so then that shapes our interpretation of the experience. If I'm in a phase of life where I'm feeling victimized, then, or feeling the victim, then the people that show up in my life are likely to be showing up in a way that where I feel victimized. And so my memory of them is that maybe they were abusive or they were victimizers. I'm not saying that it's not possible that people would be actual abusers. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that let's look at our context as something that grandly impacts our memory. So if I'm very stressed out in life and I'm in a very fragile state, the likelihood is that I will be registering events in a highly emotional way that might not be even on my radar if I were in a different state where I felt more balanced and whole. So I hope you're getting what I'm saying is that our memories are very much cultivated, very much impacted by the situation and the circumstances of our lives when the events take place. So even in that moment, it's not a pure fact. It's not a pure bit of information that we are retaining. And we form opinions from these instances, and then they can carry along with us throughout our lives. So this is kind of interesting because one of the things in this process of moving and clearing things out is that I spent a week going through memorabilia and letters and writings, and still didn't get through all of it even, but through lots and lots. I had 4 big boxes of stuff that I went through and old photographs. And what I discovered is that things weren't quite the way I remembered them. that there were things that I had forgotten. There were aspects that I had forgotten. There was a greater dimension and depth than I had remembered. And there were other instances and people actually that I had forgotten completely. So what it highlighted to me was the fallibility of our memory. And each time we remember something, we're constructing it differently. And we're at a different place in our lives. So if a parent hollers at a child, the child could become terrorized and terrified of that parent. And as an adult looking back, we can actually see, oh my gosh, that person was having a horrible day and was at the end of their rope and they hollered. And it wasn't personal, and it wasn't something about me being a bad or terrible person or or kid or whatever, right? So in this clearing out the cobwebs and clearing out stuff, the physical stuff too, we're kind of more deliberately curating our stories, curating our lives, curating the things that we choose to take with us and the things that we choose to release or leave behind. And I think that it's a big process. And just this experience for me in confronting, or not even just addressing, just being engaged, being immersed in this process, it's been very, very interesting because it's given me, it's required me to step back and look at my life from a vantage point that I don't normally do, um, or that I don't normally. And there's a richness. I was going to maybe call this morning's conversation taking stock, but it is, I think it's also, it's more maybe cleaning house, to just say, well, what do I want to keep? Am I happy with, like, is this context that I'm living with, is this context what I choose? Is it what I really want? Is it aligned with who I choose to be? Is it aligned with my values? Is this something that I need to continue to carry? Can I release the burden of that? And even things I love, there are things that I love that I'm leaving behind and actually gifting to people that I love. And that's a pretty wonderful thing too. And I see where there's an opportunity to share memories like that. So I was talking with my nephew, who had a very deep, deep, deep relationship and love for my father, who told him all kinds of stories and gave him all kinds of memories and shared all that adventure and that love with him. And I got to see how deeply cherished those memories are, and what a gift that kind of giving can be as well. So cleaning house and sharing the wealth, just being able to share your life also with others through sharing your things, giving things away to people you love, sharing memories with people you love. the memories that can enrich and enliven. And it's all part of curating our stories, curating our lives. So one of the things I also had experience with recently is somebody very dear to me telling the story of their life, but telling it from such a deeply tragic point of view. And this is also about cleaning house. That there was all this loss and being unseen and all this pain and hardship and heartbreak. And I remember being in a phase of my life where the same thing was playing out, where I my story was a story of tragedy and pain. And we have the ability, because our memories are all contextual and also fallible, we have the ability to recontextualize those stories. Like the story of the little kid whose parent hollered at them once, or maybe more than once, just to recognize, oh, there's a different vantage point to be able to see this from. That we can create our lives to be the epic stories that they are. We can live into a new story at any moment. And we can select those things to carry forward that support us, that enrich us, that are essential, that are part of our essence, can carry those things forward into our new expression or our fuller expression. And one of the other things about cleaning house that's pretty awesome is that we get to discover things that had been forgotten. And maybe even remember ourselves more deeply, parts of ourselves that we hadn't realized were consistent and persistent. So one of the deep delights that I've had in going back through all these papers and possessions is the recognition that I've been on a lifetime journey for awakening and personal growth and development. It's not that I didn't know that, but just seeing the same desires repeated. And in the past, I would see this with trauma, that the trauma, oh my gosh, how long have I been working on this issue and it's still here, right? And that's where this spiral of change is really essential to be aware of. Is yes, we come around and around back to the same issues, but we're coming to them from a very different place as we evolve, as we emerge. And so there are these themes, at least it seems to me that there are these themes in our lives that persist in some way, shape, or form. And we get to see the evolution. It's easy sometimes to fall into, there's no evolution, it's the same as it always was, but that's not really true. Because while you may essentially be the same, while your essence may be the same, there's growth and change in its expression and in its fulfillment. And so it's been heartening to see that the same thing, that the things that I desired for myself in my evolution years and years ago are the things that I still desire in my evolution. And I can still see that there's been evolution. And I think that you probably can too if you take a look. And that's heartening. That's the essence that we get to discover in our present moment and also in retrospect. So Shosha says, thank you. When I last moved, I took photos of books I had to let go of, but dragged the memorabilia. You just gave me the idea to photograph the pieces if the part to keep them as images, not objects. Yes, yes, yes. So I scanned a whole pile of letters and photographs. And the thing about that is that I've lost hard drives. I have to say, I think that there's a loss that we have gotten away from the physical things to a certain degree. I mean, there's something wonderful about pictures. And when they're digital, they're maybe more accessible and we see them more often. But it's a mixed bag for me. The letting go of lots of books here, lots of books, and keeping lots of books. But I think that's a really cool idea, Shosha, that you took photos of the books too. Anyway, that's us. We get to clean house, curate our stories, curate our lives, make it an epic adventure, folks. Let's do that together. So that's it for today. Until next time, please. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it really is an honor, a delight, a privilege to have the opportunity to share these morning musings together. So until next